Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Mayor of Detroit, Mike Duggan.
How's everybody doing? We get a chance to welcome a very special guest today, and to call this Detroit Youth Rising, I think is so appropriate. The adults in this room know that when things are going tough for you and you have children, you take care of the children first. You sacrifice. You make sure they have the clothes, the activities. But somehow when we act as a community in this city or this country, it seems like the kids get shortchanged. And those in Detroit know 6, 7, 8 years ago, Detroit was in trouble. What did they do? Closed rec centers, shut down parks, let the schools deteriorate. And a big part of what we have to do is, if we're going to turn the city around, we got great stuff happening, right? Ford's coming downtown with 5,000 jobs in automated vehicles. The arts and culture side is booming. We got Microsoft and Google coming into town. We got entrepreneurs. But who's going to fill these jobs? If we're not investing in our own young people, how does the city ever come back? And so you're going to get a chance to hear from a few people who believe deeply in that. You're going to hear from Tanya Allen, the head of the Skillman Foundation, who, my first year here, we said, we got to get folks to be able to get 14, 15, 16 years old their first paycheck. And with her and a lot of others, we started Grow Detroit's Young Talent, where 8,000 high school students this summer will have a job in the city of Detroit and get started. It's because she and others supported that. We started the Detroit Promise. We became the first big city in America where every graduate of a Detroit high school has 2 years of a community college paid for, and if you got a 3.0 and a 20 on your ACT, 4 years at a public university. Dan Gilbert and the business community funded that. And then Dan Gilbert went a step further. He said, it's one thing to help pay for college, but are they ready? And when he started spending time with young people in town, he says, you got a lot of young folks never even been downtown. You just assume that because they live in the city. And so do you know that every day in this building and the other Quicken buildings, 300 6th and 7th graders in Detroit are bused from their schools down into Quicken offices where Quicken employees mentor them, tutor them, get to know them. He didn't just send a check. He said, our company is going to be engaged in the support of these communities. And then you got a man like Robert Smith, who has had an extraordinarily successful life. He could do anything that he wants. And what's his passion? Making sure other young people can have the same kind of path that he had. And he's not just doing it in his home state of Colorado. He's going around the country. And so I hope when he gets up here, you give him a warm welcome, because it tells you that Detroit's arrived on the map when Robert Smith comes here to join a Youth Rising event. And so it's going to be a really special day. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome tonight's featured performer, Detroit Youth Poet Laureate, Inani Nichelle.
Hi, I'm Imani Nichelle. I'm just going to kick it off with some poems. We don't come from college funds. My mother is behind on the bills again. I get money hidden inside of a birthday card, amount opposite of the year turned. 15, 51. I say thank you for the card. I don't tell my mother about the money. Grandma said it's only for me, and I don't have to share. In fact, I'll be in trouble if I give her a red cent of it. Grandma offers to keep the money in her apartment. My mother has found all of my hiding spots. Underneath the mattress, behind the dresser, inside of my grandmother's chest. It is funny how money and secret, they go hand in hand, and you could never use the same hiding places twice. And the second poem was published in the Skillman magazine. So it's called Detroit from My Bike Seat. We rode our bikes all over Detroit, which then was to the white picket fence and just past the pine tree next door, and back home again, an entire city packed into this lot of concrete meadow. We had to play in the field of Mama's vision, never consistent in range, especially when she would fall into her season of drinking. One time, she allowed us to go a little further, and we thought we found a new Detroit. The point just past the neighbor's house was the depth of this city, my perception, a world as small as my hand. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President and CEO of the Skillman Foundation, Tanya Allen.
Okay, let's give Imani another hand. Wasn't she awesome? Imani, you are extraordinarily talented, and I hope you know that and that you walk in your gift. And I also want to make sure that we give a round of applause to our young people from Detroit Academy of Arts and Science. That choir is awesome. And you should just clap louder because you... Good. That clap was because you didn't have to hear me sing, right? So that was that. So I want to just say a couple things, is that we know that our young people are full of tremendous talent in this city. That is never a question. The question is whether what they experience on a day-to-day basis actually lifts up their talent and give them a platform in which they can work from. That's the question, and that's the question that we all have before us. And as you can hear from Imani's poem, that many of our young people live in great opportunity, and there are some who are living in isolation. And the goal for us, and when I say us, I mean us, the goal for us, as the mayor indicated, is that we have to bring opportunity to our young people. Because if we bring opportunity to our young people, we bring vibrancy to our city. If we bring opportunity to our young people, we bring sustainability of economic growth to our city. If we bring opportunity to young people, we change the nation. Now, you all know that many of you, particularly people of a certain age, all of us went to our public school, went to our public library, went to our public rec center, and we did all kinds of things. We learned how to swim. We played baseball, even if it was terribly. We went to get books, right? We found people who were there and that were hugging us and holding us up and investing in us. The challenge is, in this country today, is that in order to get that kind of experience, if you're a young person, you have to pay for it. And we've become a society where basically you pay to play. And when you think about that, our kids have to pay to play, pay to learn, pay to grow, pay to succeed. And we have to dismantle that. Because every young person, particularly every Detroit young person, deserves all of the opportunities to lift up their talents and give them a fair shot at success. You agree? So if the future of Detroit and the future of our young people are intertwined, then we have to be like the Maasai tribe. And many of you have heard me talk about this, and some may have not, is that in Africa, in the Maasai tribe, they, what's the word I would say? They revere their children. They revere them so much that when they greet each other, they say, "And how are the children?" And how are the children? They're asking that question first and foremost because they know that the success of their society is not going to come to fruition unless young people do well. And that's the question that I think we as Detroiters have to ask each other. And how are the children? And we can't say today, not today, we can't say our children are well, but we will be able to say it tomorrow if we work together. Now, the last thing I would just shift and say to you is that as the Skillman, as a foundation in this city, as a native Detroiter, what up, though? I love this city, right? And I love its young people deeply and passionately, right? Because I know what it takes to grow up in this city, and as many struggles and challenges as I had growing up in this city, I know that they are a small percentage of what our children face today. And as adults, we have to fix that. So I'm so grateful for the mayor lifting up the work of Grow Detroit's Young Talent, lifting up the Detroit Promise. He has led in significant and powerful ways, and there is still more for us to do. We're not going to stop. We're going to continue until we build a city where every young person has access to the opportunity that they need. And that's why I'm so honored, really honored, to have the Fund2 Foundation here. Now, you guys will get a chance to talk to Linda, who leads this foundation, and she is a rock star. And she is extraordinarily funny. So make sure you get a chance to talk to her. So she'll talk more, and they'll talk about some of the investments that they're bringing, and I'm so grateful to them for their partnership in our city. I'm also grateful to their founder, Robert Smith, who you'll hear from, and also from Dan Gilbert of Quicken Loans. And I also want to thank Vista Equity Partners for making this night possible. Now, the last thing, before we present and bring up these two men who are going to talk, is that when we found out that Robert was going to come to town, there was one request I had. If we do this, young people had to be the majority of the people in the room. So I want you all to turn to these young people and give them applause and tell them how much we care for them as a city and as leaders. The last thing I would say before I take my seat is this. I am really grateful to both Dan and to Robert. Both of these men have experienced great success. But what I appreciate most about them is that they are not resting on their laurels, and they're not patting themselves on their backs because of the financial success that they've achieved. They had opportunities, and they're trying to make sure that our young people have opportunities too. And that's why we call this event Detroit Youth Rising, because we all have to put our hands in if our young people are going to rise. Nelson Mandela said, what did he say? I lost the quote, but here we go. I got it. It always seems, all right, y'all stop laughing, I'm serious now. Here's Nelson Mandela's quote. It always seems impossible until it's done. It always seems impossible until it's done. It always seems impossible until it's done. Let's get it done for our young people. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and chairman of Quicken Loans and Rock Ventures, Dan Gilbert, and the founder, chairman, and CEO of Vista Equity Partners, Robert Smith.
Okay, here we are. Welcome, everybody.
See, I can actually use your glasses, the same ones I use.
Yeah, we just figured out backstage, we go back a long ways. We go back 9 minutes now. But it feels a lot longer than that. And I will tell you that, we found out a few things that are similar. Both born in 1962.
Both handsome.
Yeah,
humble. Right.
We both have 5 kids, but I don't have a vest like that, so I'm thinking about how I get one.
I'll get one for you tomorrow.
For sure. But anyway, Robert Smith, as you guys I'm sure know, most of you know here, if not all of you, one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country. And how much of what you do starts with your philosophy first, and then you make decisions? Or are you making decisions individually on certain companies you invest in, people you hire, and all that.
Yeah, my business, a very interesting one, and Dan, thank you for inviting me here in city of Detroit. Thank you for welcoming us here, and we chatted. I've got about 500 employees across the Vista franchise here, and now he's talked me into making sure he's a landlord for a few thousand more. So, Mr. Mayor, I don't know where you are, but you need to thank him for helping your tax revenues in the back room.
First, we're going to move the 500. It may not be quite in the city, into the city, but we'll figure it out.
Well, that's because you don't build enough. You guys need more space, but I hear you're oversupply. Anyway, I think the dynamic that's important, I'm an engineer at heart, and the way I really think about things is how do you create sustainable solutions? The way I characterize it, my real job is to create elegant solutions to complex problems. That's what my real job is. And I do that in the context of now in Vista, buying enterprise software companies and really enabling those managers of those businesses to actually perform better, bringing a set of best practices in that context. Well, as you actually think about that philosophy, one of the best practices that you have to think about is how do you now create a workforce, that's more productive and more effective, which now starts to bring into talent development, talent management, and you more than anybody probably, in this area know the importance of reaching out into the communities to find the best talent, irrespective of where they went to school, how they grew up, who their parents were, and giving them the tools to be successful. And I think those philosophical points are what we drive into action within our portfolio companies. And frankly, that's what's led to what I think is a great success of the Vista story.
So let's go back just a little bit to when you grew up and then coming into, I think, Goldman Sachs, your engineering career and all that. So you grew up in Colorado, right? Fourth generation?
Fourth generation from Colorado, fourth generation from Detroit.
Yes, see, that's another thing.
All right.
So, fourth generation, then your parents were both teachers.
Both teachers, right.
And when did you know in your mind, when did you say, I'm going to get into maybe investment banking, or I'm going to have my own fund, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to have my own business? When did that start hitting?
Let me go way, way back. It was interesting. I grew up, I went to public school. I went to the same high school my father went to, and a few years different. But the dynamic hadn't changed that much. And most people, would go to school, and then they'd look to stay in Colorado and go to college, et cetera. The year that you and I were growing up and going into high school junior year, they actually introduced a computer for the first time into our curriculum. And we got a little computer, it's a Terac, and I learned about that. And I was talking to my teacher one day. I said, well, how does this actually work? And they said, well, it's work basically based on this thing called a transistor. I said, well, who came up with that? And they said, oh, it's this place called Bell Laboratories where they actually invented the transistor. And I said, well, where is that located? And they had it, and I was pretty obnoxiously inquisitive. But I learned that they actually had a Bell Labs facility in Denver, Colorado. We're outside of Denver, Wheat Ridge. And so I called the human resources person, and I said, hey, I understand your Bell Labs, you guys developed a transistor there. Do you have internships? And the woman said, yeah, we have internships. I said, well, that's great. I said, I'd like to be an intern. They said, well, if you're between your junior and senior year in college, you can come and apply for an internship. I said, that's fantastic, because I'm a junior in high school. I'm getting all A's in my AP classes, so it's just like being in college, so when do I apply? And she said, no, come back between your junior and senior year in college. So I literally called the human resources director every day for 2 weeks. She stopped taking the call after the second day, but I left a message. And then I called her every Monday for 5 months. And so that doesn't mean call me every Monday for 5 months. Because back then they didn't have answering machines. Anyway, she called me back in June.
Yep.
And when they called back in June, she said, listen, a student from MIT didn't show up. We have an extra internship. If you are interested, why don't you come apply? Because remember, they'd never met me. And I had a 69 Plymouth Satellite, Motor City, and put $2 worth of gas in, drove out there in the one suit that I had, and got a job at Bell Laboratories.
Between your junior
and senior in high school. Right. So I'm 17-year-old working at Bell Laboratories. Now, what did that do? Yeah. It opened my mind to the world and the world of technology. They sat me in an office about yay big. I sat with the guy who had a PhD in solid state physics. That was my office mate.
I know 3 guys like that.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm saying. In the back room.
Yeah, they're back there.
But what was neat about it was, he taught me one of the most interesting, you and I talked about this earlier, one of the most interesting dynamics around learning. This is one of the 3 lessons I give my kids. And it is discover the joy of figuring things out. Yeah. Okay. And what he would do was he said, okay, here's our problem. We have this operational amplifier. It's failing in the field. You got the resources of Bell Laboratory, you got libraries, I'm sitting right here. Library for young kids is a place you go to actually research things. It got replaced by Google. But and he said, if you have any questions, just let me know. So now the first thing I had to figure out, well, what's an operational amplifier? What's it do? What's it supposed to do? What's it not doing? And I'd go to the library, I'd figure it out, I'd come back and ask a question, and he would get on the whiteboard and for 15 minutes go through the answer to that question at, I call it the subatomic particle level.
Yeah.
So you have any more questions?
The quantum level?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We got to that
Okay.
senior year. And through that engagement, I learned the joy of solving problems, not having someone tell you the answer, but to actually figure it out. Yeah. And that awakened a curiosity in me that led to, again, a career that said, go enjoy solving new problems, do things differently, solve problems that others think can't be solved, but do it in an elegant way, which is what engineering teaches you.
Now there's a lesson at the beginning part of that I was going
Yeah, don't hire people from MIT because they're
they don't show up.
unreliable. Hire Cornellians. I'm teasing. My nephew just finished at MIT. He's fantastic.
But what seems like maybe just a by the way or happenstance thing, you calling all the time to get a job. How rare, in your career, because, really, and I know you kid around, you said, hey, don't call you, but
yeah.
how many people from anywhere have done that to you in some way, shape, or weren't necessarily called, but they kept sending, until they finally, you've said, okay.
Yeah.
How many times? It happens.
It is a dynamic that occurs, and I probably have 30 employees where that dynamic occurs and has occurred. And you know this in your business. I'd love to hear your experience. You're looking for those thirsty people, thirsty for knowledge, not for a handout, thirsty for knowledge and an opportunity.
Curiosity.
Yeah, and you want to create these on-ramps for people who are like that. I think that's what makes us a great culture. It's the only place on the planet where that happens, where guys like you and I can come from school teachers and reach financial, economic, and philanthropic heights that you can't do that in other parts of the planet. So our responsibility is to create these on-ramps for others.
There's no question. I like the way that term on-ramps, I never heard that before, but I like that a lot.
You should write that down and send me my royalties.
I will. See, he's always looking out, man. But the persistence thing and the curiosity thing, and I don't know, again, if it's, it's the phones that we all carry and people aren't used to necessarily talking, but I just noticed we're going to find out later because I guess we're taking questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's a hesitancy sometimes when you're in groups, small meetings, bigger meetings, auditoriums like this, for people to ask questions. People are thinking, I'm going to look dumb if I ask a question. There's no dumb questions, right? Just dumb answers.
So how do you encourage people in your organization? Because I'll tell you how we do it, because I'm really curious, like all things. I'm a student of,
I'm interviewing you today, right?
Yeah, no, but I'm just kidding. You were just as interesting, just not as handsome.
Well, wait a minute. The beginning of the talk where you're both... I just went down a couple notches.
Okay. Yeah. No, but seriously, tell us about how you encourage it.
Well, it's interesting. I'm going to give you this book free, normally $19.99 plus shipping and handling.
Okay.
Free to you. It's our isms book, and one of our isms, we have 19 of them. One of them you just actually said, which is, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So what I've noticed about highly successful people like yourself, wherever they come from, it's amazing because sometimes people say, oh, you guys, this culture, you made it up. We didn't make it up at all. We discovered it exists in the universe, and you discovered it too.
Right.
And most people end up, we have these little isms here that have a philosophy, these 19 things we say, but I'm telling you, you talk to any highly successful person, whether in the arts, whether in science, whether in sports, whether they're in business, whether they're in politics, they'll tell you most of it, 80% of it's the same. They may say it a little differently. Right.
Words may be different, but it's exactly right. I'll tell you one of the dynamics that I like to think about for folks who aren't in business. This kind of gets into the, how do you move into business, and internships are an important part of it. The fact is this, when I decided that I was going to become a chemical engineer, and I looked at the world of chemical engineers, I realized for the rest of my career, I would likely be the only one who looks like me in the room.
So the second most handsome guy in the room.
Second most handsome, right? Yeah. What that made me do is think about the fact that there are people in that room who don't understand who I am, where I come from, my culture, what's important to me. I knew I had to take it upon myself to now engage with them, okay? To now engage with them so they understand who I am, okay? And I take time to understand who they are so they can meet that common ground of solving those problems, okay? That dynamic is one that we have to continue to encourage. It is one of reaching and engaging, put our political world aside today, but that's what has made America a great place, is people engaging in its best form. The engagement of people from different places and cultures and experiences is what's going to lead to really the acceleration of opportunity and the acceleration of our economy. That's what we are here to do.
There's no question. Warren Buffett said something to me.
Who's that?
And Warren Buffett, your friend Warren Buffett.
Yeah, it's a good friend.
And I've had the fortunate opportunity to know him in the last, just say, 5 years, 6 years. Yeah. One of the things he said to me that always stuck out in my mind was, and I think he said this publicly as well, he said that he looks at America right now and he looks at everything from the wilderness in the late 1700s to where we are today, and he said, we did that with using about 30% of the brains in the country.
Right.
Half of them women were, for whatever crazy reasons, but we all know that women didn't have the opportunities they're starting to have today now. Right. Same thing for African Americans, other minorities. So 30%, he goes, if we did what we did with 30%, I'm very optimistic about the future. Now we're going to use 100% of the brains in this country and the people. So,
I'm as well.
To your point, and I guess let's, the real talk now. So how did people tell you around you, you can't do what you're going to do because you're black, you're this, you're from Colorado, whatever it might be. Yeah. I mean, did people around you say that? Of course. And what did you say back to them at the time?
Like all things, you can't, like all things, and this is for the youth and folks that aren't, you can't listen to what other people say or how they frame you in that context. You have to follow what is your spirit. You have to follow what is that drives you forward. And you have to look to examples as to what is it that's going to convey my intention in a direction that works for me. One of the ways I actually think about it, I look at people like Dick Parsons, from looking at African Americans. I'm looking at people like Ken Chenault, and I'm seeing what they were doing. They'll get mad because they're way older than I am. But I could look to them as being mentors. Okay, but I could look to people like Sandy Weil, who's a friend of mine here. I mean, I look to a person who not just was very successful in business, but said, I'm going to make philanthropy a part of my life and my life's work in concert with what I do, as opposed to let me work and then go do philanthropy. So that tells me it's possible. What you have to figure out is what's the natural rhythm that works for you in your life, okay? You and I've talked about it. It's like, this double bottom line, triple bottom line, 1 + 1 = 3 dynamic. You all have done this here in Detroit, which I stand back excited, marveled, and frankly, it's now how do you take that, and Mr. Mayor, we were talking about, how do you now export the dynamic of the business, the private and public partnerships to make all that work so that we can take advantage of, our citizenry and make sure those who are embargoed in those cities now see an on-ramp to opportunity.
Yep. So the concept of, you've touched on this, and again, we call things different things, but we come to the same. And when I mean we, not just you and I, but I think most people who have an awareness and an inkling of sort of the world and what's going on. But the more you say to yourself, well, money follows, which is also one of our philosophies. But money follows; it doesn't lead, right? Money and numbers follow. Right. They follow production of work and brains and muscles and whatever it is that we're putting together. When you think of it from that standpoint of how much you can impact the world, is there a better place than businesses to, if they wake up to this, of how they can affect the world, and how does that help? There's not a conflict, right?
No, I think it's in concert.
It helps the bottom line, actually.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree. Look, the wonderful platform that businesses create is they're definable. If you think about it, definable measures. That you can actually set goals and targets against, profit being one of them, well-being, the wellness in your company and in the community. And I tell our folks at Vista, be thoughtful about the communities in which we operate, okay? Because those are the people who are fueling, and you all do it here better than many other places. They're fueling your businesses, they're fueling the innovation, but you and I, as business leaders, have to create a space in our organizations for those ideas to germinate and to grow.
No question.
Okay.
How much do you guys measure things? Because I know you're invested in, I think most of their private companies, right? Your private equity.
They are all private.
So you don't have to worry about this quarterly earnings business and all that stuff.
Right.
So, how much do you take the feedback from the portfolio companies with the software companies when they say, hey, I want to invest X amount of time and maybe some capital into our community to do this? I mean, are you going to sit around like, some of these board of director guys, well, that's going to hurt today's?
No.
How do you approach it?
We look at it again, it's holistic, okay? Yep. The big dynamic we think about in the world of enterprise software, our biggest challenge is talent.
Yep.
Okay, I've got 60,000 employees. I've got 5,000 open recs today as we sit here, okay? My job is to figure out where we can get the people, train the people to be effective in our companies, along with all of our CEOs. Where are you going to find them? Often the best place is in your own backyard. Now the question is, what is it that they don't have that you need? Let me give you an example of one of the things we do better than anyone else, I think, in the world of private equity. We build training systems. Okay, back in the old days when I graduated and you went to work at a big company, you'd go into a 6 or 9 month training program before you could write a live line of code or meet a live customer. Today it's 2 weeks. Well, that's not enough to actually train somebody and show that you're investing in them. Our boot camps, we call them, are 6 to 9 months. When you invest in people, so I can take someone who does well on our aptitude test and has the right sort of personality, who is a roofer, and train them to be a salesperson. Okay, we had one woman who actually ran a Domino's pizza outlet who is now head of training for one of our companies, okay, through the training. These are jobs that are, they were making $9 to $15 an hour. Now they're making $65,000 to $125,000 a year because A, they had the aptitude, B, they had the desire, C, we had a training process to help them. We install those training systems in every company we buy. Why is that important? Because now it tells the communities that we're in, we are interested in the people in that community. Because that's what community is all about.
There's no question. So there's a war on talent. You just mentioned it. A war to acquire talent, I should say. Not on talent, but to acquire talent. You're young people who are in this room. Has there been a better time to be a young person with the opportunities of all these companies, in essence, if you have certain skills, competing for you? Right. Now, in the past, when you compete for muscles versus brains, muscles pretty much the same, and there's some guys that have more than others, but hey, but it's not too much of a difference. But in the brain world, there's a massive difference, of skills and talent. And is there any doubt that if somebody chooses in today's world talent, or that I'm going to get this skill and I'm going to become this kind of talent, that companies will compete for them?
There is no greater opportunity. So my 16-year-old was asking me, over the holidays, we were kind of laughing about some different things. He said, okay, Dad, if you could be any one of your kids, who would you be? And I'd say, I want to be Legend. That's my 2.5-year-old. He's like, well, why? I said, because he's got the greatest opportunity of any of you. He's the youngest. And this world is moving in a way that you could take advantage of all that is yet to be discovered and learned. Let's actually think about this a second. What has happened? Back when you and I were growing up, computing power was scarce. Okay? When you went to, computing power was controlled by the government, some large universities, and a few large companies. And they had all the computing power. And all the applications were built on their systems. If you and I wanted to access a computer, you'd have to sign up. You'd have to go in. You get to use it for a half hour. Somebody taps you on the shoulder because it's now their half hour. Okay? Then it was about $1,000 an hour to use computing power. Today it's $50 a month, all you can eat. Well, what's that mean? The proliferation of computing power has created a proliferation of opportunity. So the real question is, are you skilled to take advantage of that? Are you skilled enough? And if not, go get skilled. And you don't have to get skilled at Harvard or Yale, whatever. Where you can go anywhere to learn how to write code. You can learn how to write code watching YouTube videos. Or you can come to a Vista company, hopefully. Okay, in all honesty. What that does.
You'll try one of ours too first. It's okay.
No, I think you should come to a Vista company.
I'll see. You want people competing?
Now we're competing for talent. Your salaries just went up. But that dynamic is one that now has led to, an opportunity for any person in this country, for the most part, has the opportunity to now create their own destiny. Before, if you lived in a certain area, certain waterways, certain access to capital, that was kind of your station in life. This computing power, you have access to anywhere on the planet immediately through these devices. It's absolutely amazing if you think about it. So it is incumbent upon the youth here to take advantage of that dynamic. It's incumbent upon us with labor shortages to create as many on-ramps as we can so we can capture those people. I just came in 12 hours ago, 15 hours ago from Tokyo and Hong Kong and all that sort of stuff. Now I want you to think about this. If you just do basic math, we do an aptitude test, okay? Personality profile. About 8.8% of the people on the planet get an A on that test. They have more people who get A's on that test than we have people.
Are you saying in those communities you were?
Yeah, no, I'm just talking about in China.
Okay.
And so and now they have access to computing power. Yep. So the real challenge here is how do we skill all of our citizenry to participate in this, what we call this fourth industrial revolution? Because every single industry is digitizing. We were chatting the other, just recently about, I've seen this, you got some nice shoes on, my man. Like my son trades shoes on what's it called? What's the name of that?
StockX.
Yeah, StockX, right? And he's, Dad, I'm like, what's StockX? He's teaching me, man, I bought these, and he's making a little money with his allowance on that. And I don't know if I'm happy about it or sad about it, but
we're really happy.
But he's making, I bet. I'm gonna have to talk to you about some rebates.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there you go, right?
So
he's like, Dad, check this out.
The most popular ones, you got to scroll up. I'm trying to think.
So I didn't realize this was an advertisement for his company.
Yeah.
Nobody told me that. I mean, anyway, those are probably his. But anyway, so you can list your shoes and
you got to go come and wear one and go home to pick the hottest one.
Well, you know what I do?
Will you
buy them for me?
I will buy you a pair.
Watch out.
No, you pick a pair out.
I'll get them.
You got to wear them on the way home and walk in your.
I got it. We'll do it. So he'll list these shoes, and also, so what I've done is just to encourage him. I go and buy the most expensive pair that he really likes that I know he can't afford. I get him in his size, and I put him in the living room. And we're about the same size. And he's like, "Oh, Dad, wow, what are you going to do with that?" As I said, "Well, it all depends. If you make heads lists, they're yours. If you don't make heads lists, then I'm wearing them to Parent-Teacher Day." Needless to say, he makes head lists every time now, right? Because that's incentive. But the whole point is, he now, if you think about it, is engaging in the business dynamic, buying and selling on a digital platform. He doesn't even know the buyers and sellers, okay, for the most part. So that's a dynamic that this generation has access to that you and I didn't. When we wanted to do it, we had to go.
There's no question.
Know the person.
I mean, deliver pizzas or hustle newspapers or whatever it might. But I will tell you guys that it is unbelievable what you just said, that you can sit at your computer or your phone, in essence, conduct business over the entire world. Over the entire world, not just on StockX, but on plenty of other places. And it's an incredible time. And to listen to all the noise, a lot of noise going on in America right now, that's just the way it is. I mean, I don't think it certainly wasn't always this way, and I don't think it will be, by the way, always. I think we'll all look back and say it was a period of time. We had a bunch of noise going on, but you know what? You have the opportunity, man. I agree. Legends is name your kid.
Yeah, my little
best name I've ever heard in my life.
That's cool, right? Yeah. Man, you know what I had to
What's his middle name? Does he have a middle name?
Robert.
Oh, of course. So, anyways, I have a few serious questions for you. More questions, and this is just a real short one. Then we're going to get into a couple of serious things again. But now Thanksgiving, I hear, is an issue at your house.
Yeah.
Well, at least my research told me that.
Uh-oh.
I think your wife's a vegetarian. Is that true?
Some days.
Something. Is there you request macaroni to be delivered to you from out of state from your
clearly you've been talking to my aunt.
Yeah, she's right here. So just give it quickly.
So those in the African American community know the importance of macaroni and cheese on Thanksgiving.
Let me tell you something. You don't have to just be African American community.
My wife was not raised in the African American community. And so she made some macaroni and cheese. So I had to call in some reinforcements.
What you're saying
and of course, it was the reinforcements' idea that they just shipped them. I said, I didn't ask for that. I just sent them. How great. Let's just put it on the table. So it worked out quite well.
So let me get this right. After you're watching the football game, whatever, and you sneak back there and switch the macaroni and cheese out.
No. I just put both trays out there, and people could select whatever they wanted.
So he's a free market guy all the way around. Right?
And I, of course, had equal portions of both on my plate.
Yeah. So tell us about how important internships are to you, and it's a big focus in your philanthropy as well as I think your businesses.
Yeah.
How important are internships in general? How do you deploy your strategy there?
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing is, obviously it changed my life completely. You know, the awareness, I gave you the story, the awareness that I realized of just having exposure, not only to what a business does and how they do it, but to a very strong mentor. And that dynamic, that mentor-mentee relationship, again, you want to create one that's penalty-free, not supervisory, but the mentor relationship where they can actually have very open dialogue and conversation about not only that company, but personal development, professional development, and the things that some people may not get in their home because they may not have business people, for instance, or people in the field that they're interested in as part of their family or their normal network. And so one of the things that we've done with my family and what we've done with the Fund 2 Foundation is think about, and we use the term cradle to greatness, right? How do you develop people? And how you develop people that have not necessarily had the same opportunities or exposure, or in some cases are embargoed. I like to use the word, you go to certain cities and they're embargoed, they are sitting, but they don't have access to what is the economic dynamics that it's occurring.
There's even a layer below that. I use this term, they don't know they don't know.
They don't know, exactly.
In other words, somebody's got to, it's not fair. I mean, it's just not a fair thing. You're sort of, nobody's ever exposed to what can happen.
And so part of what we do is we think about, okay, well, what are the building blocks? And, it's funny, when I was coming here, I asked the team, I said, okay, what's our impact in Detroit metro area? We touched 15,900 people, young people in the Detroit metro area through the bunch of relationships and partners that we've either funded or systems or programs that we have engaged with. NAF is one of them, and Sandy and I were talking about 2,500 kids, I think, in NAF, and now they're going to announce big announcements that I can't steal the thunder all that Sandy's told me about that I'm really excited about, but I can't tell anybody about it.
Give us 30 seconds on what NAF is. Actually.
So NAF, and Sandy, I don't know if you want to talk a bit about it, but in essence, they are schools where in essence that they now go and they put in very specific programming and developmental components to the education system that then prepare these students to be more effective, in secondary education, college, et cetera. And now they're building out a mentorship program with universities, I'll say it that way so I don't have to tell you which one's Big Blue, have that, where these kids can actually spend time on campus developing skills so that then they can launch into a successful academic career, which leads to a job in addition to internships. Okay, we do programs with things like InPower. InPower we're launching here in Detroit and in Flint. We've launched the first one we did in Baltimore and then in St. Louis. We looked for these communities where, honestly, there was embargoed citizenry. Often there was tension in those places. One of them we put a block away from where Michael Gray was killed, the other one a half a mile from where Freddie Brown was killed. And we said, we're going to put them there because we want those communities to see and have access to. And what we do is we take high school graduates and returning veterans and go through job training, okay? With the returning vets, 100% graduation rate, 100% job placement. With the high school students, about 92% graduation rate, 100% job placement. Okay, and some of our students are homeless. Vets are homeless, now going into $38,000 to $65,000 a year jobs. Okay, so if you think about that, one of the next we thought about was, we do a good job, I thought, K through 12. Now we're saying, let's get to that next level, which is STEM students. So what we've launched is a program called internX, large X.
Oh, you owe me a royalty for the stock X thing. You stole the X at the end of that.
Well, yeah, you make profits. I make people.
Okay. Makes people who makes profit.
Yeah, but we'll feed, but you'll be a part of it. And you do a fantastic job. I think you've got 1,500 interns in your organization, right?
1,500 slated for the summer, and then a few hundred of them are in the fall.
Right. Right. So, you understand this. So what we're doing with Intern 6 is 10,000 interns. And what I do is I go to AT&T and John Donovan and Randall Stevenson, I need 500 internships. They're like, Robert, you got them, okay? Now, we at Vista, I go to each one of my CEOs and say, all right, give me 3 to 4 internships. 3 to 4 internships, 60 companies, you get to about 200, right? Yep. Plus or minus internships. And now you raise 10,000 internships, and now you get STEM students, underrepresented minorities, women, and say, you've got to go through some things. You're going to put your information in, you're going to put your resume in, go on, the online connected platform. You're going to watch, before you go interview at AT&T, you're going to watch a video on what AT&T does, okay? And you're going to learn, what does a good intern? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do the first day of school? How am I supposed to interact with my mentor? How am I supposed to interact with my supervisor?
Even at this level, at this time in your career, probably in business 33 years.
Yeah.
That's about right, 33 years.
I'm only 34, but yeah, okay.
Okay. How often do you get in an interview? You still do some interviews here?
Of course.
Do you get a question?
Oh, all the time.
You do get a question?
Yeah,
Okay,
all the time.
'cause
Love them.
I think it's getting better. We're getting more questions.
Yeah.
I was talking about it earlier, but I think you differentiate yourself. Those of you who are going to interview with people, just listen to what Robert's saying here.
Yeah.
Just ask. You ask a few questions, you already put yourself in the top 5%.
Right, and that's what it's, so it's that sort of prep. Ask these sort of questions. And so the whole thing is preparing these students in a way that when they go interview, they're heads above, and then people like you and I who are saying, listen, I need employees, I need talented people. These are the now we've got a pipeline. Look, they may not work at the company long term, but they may. Okay, and the point is we have actually created what I call a clearinghouse system because we now have clearinghouse capabilities, right? Because it's like the Uber of internships. I hate to use the word Uber, but anyway, you get the point, right? Okay, that's the whole point of what this internX program is. And I'm actually really excited about it. I know that it is going to be successful as we have launched it. And so I think Linda, no, because she's going to talk later. She'll tell you more about it and what we've done and where we are.
Are you going to talk about the macaroni too, or no? So just a few things. So you seem to have, at a certain point, looks like back around the turn of the century, so let's say 2000.
Yeah.
Is that roughly when you started your private equity? Or was
Exactly
that
right. Yeah.
And were you right from Goldman Sachs into doing that?
Right.
So what made you leave? Everybody, Goldman Sachs, partner Goldman
yeah.
Sachs. People like to use those words. Sometimes they don't even know what they're doing. They just say Goldman Sachs.
Right.
And they've done some good things, and it's a prestigious, probably one of the most prestigious firms in the world in investment banking for sure. Now, you wake up and say, I'm leaving, and I'm going to go risk at this point. At that time, I think you're 37 or 8 years old.
Right.
So I'm going to go start my own fund, my own business. How did that?
Yeah, it manifests this way. I was an M&A banker, okay, and I'm running around doing M&A deals, and I focus mainly on companies like my clients were, I helped this one company, for instance, they had to get rid of the board of directors and because they weren't doing a great job apparently, and invite the founder to come back in and restart the company, and that company was Apple.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Oh, you remember that?
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
it's a little company you guys probably know.
Yeah. People forgot that Apple. True, they were almost dead. They were almost dead. They were almost a dead company. Yep.
Yeah. So I was, the M&A banker advising the board at that time, and the lead director, Ed Willard, had the insight and foresight to understand that the only way to save that company is to get Steve to come back in. Anyway, that dynamic, I worked with, advised companies like Hewlett-Packard and Texas Instruments and a number of, software companies, a little company called eBay, a little company called Yahoo, anyway, way back when they were little. And one of my clients was this little company based out of Houston, Texas, sold enterprise software, had some of the, best run software company I'd ever seen. And it was owned by this family, family charitable trust, and they asked me to, sell one of their businesses and got engaged. And I'm a scientist, so I started looking at how they're running their business. And I said, wait a minute, if I looked at all the other enterprise software companies out there, they were operating at about 11 and 12% margins. Mm-hmm. These folks were operating at multiples of that. And I said, wow, if you go from, if you actually take those best practices and put them in those companies, this is how you can run the business. Because if you talk to any software executive today and you ask them, well, who taught you how to run a software company? They're going to say, well, nobody. They kind of made it up because it's a new industry, right? So as we go along, I said, well, what are you guys, doing? Because it's making money, doing all this money. He said, well, we're investing in a bunch of different things, and CDs, certificates of deposit and all that, not music CDs, certificates of deposit. And I said, well, if I were you, I said, there's a bunch of other things to look at. And they said, well, like what? So I take them back and they meet with a bunch of the executives at Goldman Sachs. And they said, well, a lot of those are public market focused. They said, what else? I said, well, there's these things called software companies that if you actually go buy them and take your best practices and run them into those companies, you could actually do pretty well. And they said, well, if you'd be interested in doing that, we'd be interested in being, your limited partner. And that's how I got into the business.
And so did you start an actual software company before the fund, or you started your fund?
No, it was a fund, and in essence, what we did was now go find enterprise software companies, take the best practices that they had in that company, and drive them into those enterprise software companies. And now we do it at scale.
So where did you have to raise money?
Yeah.
How much did you originally raise?
So that first fund, it was $300 million, and they went to $1 billion. That was my first fund.
Okay, so a billion here, a billion there can add up. I mean,
It can add up eventually.
You know, so where did you, who's got all this money? Who put it in?
Only if you make profit.
That's true.
If you don't make profit, no, right?
Right, but who put, is it just different?
It was, that case, it was one family trust. Okay, and I remember I was
one trusting family.
in one trusting family.
You know.
I will guarantee you, like my lawyer said at the time, he's like, Robert, this is the worst deal I've ever seen. You should take it.
Yes, sir.
Because he realizes, like, how else are you going to get into private equity? For some of you folks here, understand, people like me who look like me did not work in private equity. Okay? I see a whole lot of heads shaking. They barely work in private equity today. All right? So understand that. Right? So that's kind of point one. Then I went out and in 2006, 2007 said, let's go raise an institutional fund. And that's when I went out to go meet with some of the largest pension funds and say, guess what? This world of enterprise software, it is the most productive tool introduced in the business economy. People don't run these businesses well. If you take these best practices and drive them into these companies, here's what you can end up with. Thank goodness 25 more people said, let's give them a shot. Right now I've got.
But hold on a second, there's a 5-year period we just missed. Okay.
No, that was 7 years.
No, or 7 years. So you must have had some successes during those 7 years. You're a modest guy,
and some
right?
pain, but let me tell you.
You had some success.
But the whole point of those 7 years was building out, remember those best practices, and codifying them. And remember, I could only learn them from that one company.
Right.
Now I had to codify them and teach my team how to actually do it.
So where's that little book of the codification?
It's actually 3 manuals that thick.
Okay. How do I get a copy?
You can't.
I can't.
In fact, if you wanted to become an investor, you can come in my offices and you can read them, but you can't take them.
I take a picture of them with my.
Nope, you take your phone from me.
Let's do that.
In all honesty, right? That's the way it works. Those are the best practices, and we continue to evolve those over time.
You know, you are one of the rare combinations, and I mean this, of people who have both, science, art, right? I mean, you have a soul personality, and you know the science and the numbers. I mean, usually people are on one side or the other. I mean, you seem to really have.
Well, that's because of my parents and my family, right?
One of your parents, a engineer type, and one an art.
No. They were. Here's the deal. They were both teachers, but highly concerned about the state of our community, and so they were engaged in community activities since the day I was. I'll tell this story. Many have heard it. My mother wrote a check to the United Negro College Fund for $25. Every month for over 50 years, okay? Now, some of you guys with these fancy shoes on, back in our day, we used to have Converse All-Stars, Chuck Taylors. They cost $12.50.
Plus the Pumas, remember the Pumas?
Right, and the Pumas.
Yep.
And I was like, Mom, you could buy me some Chuck Taylors. She said, yeah, but you could go buy your own. She said, it's more important that I put this $25 in to help educate our community than for you to go get a pair of Chuck Taylors.
That's right.
Right? That's the family I grew up in.
And it sounds like a real special family. Do you have brothers and sisters too?
I've got one brother.
And what is he older, younger?
Older brother.
What's he doing?
Yeah, he's a bunch of things now. He owns his own, business, and we're actually doing a couple things. He manages a bunch of real estate, some of it mine, and actually is building. I shouldn't tell you, but I'll say
some real estate in Detroit here. You may want to take.
Yeah, I know. I'll tell him. But no, it's he's anything aquaculture, because if you think about it, food security is going to be one of the biggest problems on the planet. And so we're building an aquaculture plant.
Incredibly interesting. So we have about 19, 20, 21 minutes left.
Yeah.
This one, Robert instructed me. That's when we're going to take Q&A. But I want to say a couple things I have to say to you at the end here. We'll save a minute or two. So are we going to, am I doing this right? People who are running this project, opening it up, we have a catch box, right?
Yeah.
Show them what a catch, one of the most brilliant ideas ever, by the way. We couldn't get microphones in all of our meetings into the middle of a section. So just throw it.
All right, raise your hand and catch it. If you don't catch it, you're going to get hit in the head, but okay.
Just throw it. They'll catch it.
There's one.
Oh, wait. Let's get back to him. Back, one more. Joe, is that you? Joe, throw it in the middle of the section. Right. Well, we'll get it to you after, I promise you, if you have a question. Unless you want to ask first.
Yeah, there you go. He's got it. Go ahead and ask him. He'll throw it.
Fine.
Joe, you missed your shot.
Joe, that was it. You had one shot, one opportunity, like that song or whatever.
Yeah,
now you're adding on pressure.
Shot.
Okay, so I actually ran into you all outside before
Me or him?
you actually came in here.
Who did you run into?
Who, me or him?
No, I just seen you interacting with the Detroit Academy of Arts and Science student.
Oh, okay, me.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
And I was nervous because I really had some questions I wanted to ask.
Well, now's your time.
Well, I want you to know that two of the little kids, they weren't nervous at all.
They weren't.
They got my email address and everything. No,
Hey, I'm going to call you tomorrow.
I swear to God. As soon as they start telling me everything they're doing, what they do, why I should send them answer their email and everything. So
I always give them Sandy Wow's email address, so I have no problem giving them that.
So, go ahead, man.
Okay, so I grew up around hard work ethic, and I do believe in hard work. So I understand hard work takes time and hard work takes patience. But what advice could you instill in me that I could create as I create my own path in life and further my goals?
Yeah. I'm going to take it first, and you can take a second.
Go ahead.
Mine's really simple. Become an expert at your craft, okay? And, you know, a friend of mine, Malcolm Gladwell, I don't know if you guys should read some of his books. He's a brilliant thinker, philosopher, sports fan. He will give you some thoughts on how you should manage your team differently.
Well, you know, let me just tell you, in the NBA, if you're at the bottom, you know, you get the top pick.
Oh, I understand that, and that's what he'll probably
There's a guy at Duke, or a few of them there.
Oh, right, yeah, you should go get all of them.
Yeah,
but the whole point is go be an expert at your craft. And that means, Malcolm talks about 10,000 hours to become an expert at your craft. So your key is to compress that 10,000 hours, be in an environment where you can learn from experts in your craft in that period of time. That would be my chief piece of advice.
So I have two things. Two things. I'll say number one, and you heard it from Robert here, persistence. You just have to say, you have to make a decision. I mean, how old are you?
20.
You're 20 years old. I mean, you may think, some people get to be 20, they go, oh, I'm getting old. You have no idea how young you are. You'll know one day, but you are so young. Make a decision that nothing is going to stop you. No disappointment, no failure, no remarks of people who, you know, say things around you, family members, friends. Just, you're going to make a decision. I don't know exactly what that decision is going to be, but it's going to be something you're passionate about probably that you want to do. And you're going to not listen to any negativity, and you're just going, no matter what, you heard it. I mean, starting with the Bell Labs?
Yeah,
Bell Labs story here. I mean, you know, this one of the most successful, you know, entrepreneurs, forget of black people, just in the United States of America, period, white, black, or green. I mean, and he made a decision, right? So that'd be number one. Number two is, you know, we say that only your friends tell you have food on your face, only your friends. So people who get insulted, that, you know, none of you would, let me back up, none of you would be insulted if your friend told you you had food on your face. You go, of course, I don't want food on my face. Yeah. But a lot of people are insulted when you give them constructive feedback. Like, we changed at our company in the last month, actually. We had this whole thing, this email. We changed constructive feedback to the word gold. So you're giving somebody gold, and gold is valuable. And so, you know, when you say thanks for the gold, you know.
I may have to steal that one, so we may be even on the royalties.
Yeah, we're even at least. So that's what I would say. Do not get offended. People are usually, if their intentions are good, they're giving it to you because they want you to do better. And obviously, people can see you better than you can see you. I mean, the only time you really see you is when you're looking in the mirror, and that's a very small percentage of your day for most people. So
not the selfie culture.
Gold. So,
all right, toss the box.
There we go. Look at that, middle of the section, no problem.
Love it.
Beautiful.
Joe, that's the way to do it. All right.
My question is, what was your biggest problem with becoming successful?
The biggest
challenge.
Challenge. Look, you know, the how to become that's interesting. You know, you have got to realize in certain businesses that I wanted to enter, there were no people who looked like me in those businesses. And, you know, Goldman Sachs, there were a few, not a lot, but a few.
How many is a few? Like, I have no perspective.
In the M&A department at the time, there was Greg Gonzalez and G.D. Zeitlin and Keith Spears. 3.
Plus, are you in there too?
No, that's for me to get in.
And how many total out of how many?
Oh, in the M&A department at the time?
M&A.
350.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, and I don't want to pick on one company, but that's just absolutely.
Yeah. Now, they've done a better job of that on the one hand, but part of the better job was by the fact that people like me got in, became a staffer, said, guess what, I get to actually do the hiring this year, so, and you can change it. The point is, knowing that that is the challenge that you have to figure out how to breach that challenge, okay, and breach that chasm. And it's going to be different every time as to how you do it, but you need to be thoughtfully creative about it. Okay, thoughtfully creative about how do I overcome the challenge because I wanted something. I wanted to learn what they did there. Okay, I was an engineer. I loved engineering. I was happy. Then I learned about this whole thing around, mergers and acquisitions because I started doing, one of my companies, I was with the company Kraft Foods. I started doing, buyouts in the coffee business, which I said, this is actually pretty cool. But, I'm kind of making it up as I go. We just happened to be the biggest one, so we were rolling these things up. And I said, I need to go where they're the best at it. And I figured out there were 6 places that were the best at doing M&A. And I figured out how to get Goldman Sachs to give me an offer. Goldman Sachs was going to give me an offer if Morgan Stanley gave me one. Morgan Stanley was going to give me an offer if I got one from JP Morgan. And they were going to give me an offer. I got one from Credit Suisse. Okay, so now it's like.
They say that too? They say if they give you one, I'll give you one?
You just knew it. That's when you just understand. Goldman wasn't just going to pick some dude who'd never been in M&A off the street to now come be in M&A. But if Morgan Stanley wanted me, oh God, we got to have him. All right, okay. That's how it worked in my day. So I had to figure out that on-ramp. And a guy by the name of Ray McGuire, okay, who's now vice chairman, Ray is now vice chairman at Citibank. He was at the time Wasserstein Perella, African-American, one of the most brilliant M&A bankers on the planet, gave me my first shot. And it's because I walked in there and I was studied. I knew more about the food industry, and people tell me about how you would do an M&A roll-up for a Chinese, for a Japanese manufacturer. And I went to the whiteboard in my interview and said, here's the 5 companies you need to buy and put it together. They gave me an offer which led to the Goldman offer, but I was studied. I didn't walk in there and say, hey, what do you guys do? No, I knew what I wanted to communicate to them.
But the choice to be studied, as you say, or to know, or to, to rain the knowledge on, that's a choice. That has nothing to do with how smart you are, right?
No.
That's a choice.
That's work.
That's a choice. That's the work.
10,000 hours.
And capitalism, too, capitalism is colorblind. The only color they care about a lot is green. I mean, if you're valuable, nobody cares, okay? Not nobody. I mean,
but part is you got to.
But most people don't care.
You got to create the opportunity to become valuable.
That's right. Make yourself valuable, and all that stuff goes. Just you don't have to listen to noise or anything. Right. And then you put you in control of things, and you're as you should be, right? If you deserve to. So
toss the box.
That was a little bit, but you could have went there. But
There's one way back there, man.
No, let her ask.
Go ahead. Yeah.
My name is Joya Mahone. I'm a junior at Renaissance High School here in Detroit, and I have 2 questions. My first question is, what would you suggest to a young African-American female that has an interest in a male-dominated field of work?
Okay. You want me to go first?
Wait, can I just ask before you, what are you specifically thinking of what field?
Autonomous vehicle engineering.
Okay. That's easy. Be the best at it. Okay. Now, if you're in high school, figure out how to be the best when you're going to go interview and get in an internship or to college. You do your work on autonomous vehicles. Who are the leaders? What are they doing? What technology are they using? I'm not saying you have to learn how to program that today, but do your work and convince anyone you go into that you're going to be the most highly qualified candidate, period. Okay, that's the first thing you do. Become an expert at your craft. Right now, your craft is to get into the best college that can teach you autonomous vehicle engineering and get the best internship. That's your craft today. That's what you need to study.
I would just say make a decision, because there's no way that you won't be wanted by many companies if you graduate, like you said, in autonomous vehicle, and that's such a highly specialized, high-demand field. You'll have multiple offers. I would guarantee that. And I have nothing to do with that field or anything. It's just you're too much of a value in a commodity for many companies not to want it. Just don't listen to anybody who tells you otherwise, because they're wrong.
Thank you. And my second question is, how does preservation contribute to a broken society?
Okay.
Preservation, you're talking about the environment?
I'm thinking of preservation of culture. Is that what you're talking
Yes.
about?
I think culture or the environment would.
Or which one? Culture or environment?
Well,
Or both?
both, yeah.
I'll do culture, you do environment?
I think you better do.
Or do you want to do culture and I'll do environment?
No, it just doesn't matter. Whatever one you want to.
No, you go first. So
No,
you
I mean,
pick.
when you say let me tell you something. I give this example not because of the company. So I'm not even going to say the name. You'll know who it is. So there's a company recently that has gone under been under significant scrutiny for their privacy policies, right? That happens to be internet related, and where all the friends and stuff go. and I'm going to throw out a reason maybe you haven't read as to why that may be the case. I mean, when we all read it as customers of theirs, or if we have an account on that company's site or their business, we say, how could that be? How could people just not take a 10,000-foot view and say, wait a minute, if we do this, if we have these policies, there's going to be things that happen very bad for us. Well, when you're on a campus, it's a one campus where everybody works for that same company, and you're all looking at each other, bobbleheading each other, if you know what I'm saying. The bobbleheads that go this way, not this way, those one-way bobbleheads. And everybody's trying to talk themselves into why this is okay. You've got all kinds of issues. When you have a cultural diversity in anywhere that has it, an urban core, this, that, everybody's looking at things from just a turnover, turn, but from a 360, because everybody's got different experiences, backgrounds, and everything. I think it's similar to the stock market when they say diversify why do they say diversify? Because it's less risky. So it's actually less risky for companies, in my opinion. Not only less risky, but it actually helps innovate and fuel growth because of so many different people from so many different walks of lives. And I mean it. I think it is a better, more conservative, a higher percentage chance of success. And that's why, preserving culture, that's one reason, but there's a lot of reasons. I was giving you from the business standpoint.
Yeah, I'll go with environmental just to look.
You're from Colorado, you go.
Yeah, well, and it's important. I mean, at my ranch, for instance, we have about 10,000 inner city kids up there every summer. Well, why? Because often they don't understand the importance of preserving an environment so that you're healthy, you have perspective. I have the great fortune of living, growing up in Colorado and seeing, going to the mountains because my parents, took us up there. That to me is probably, and that's the way I relax, it is the most mind-clearing experiences that I have. And I know the importance of that. To your point in business, if you're surrounded by the same people, you get a narrower scope. Well, if you're surrounded by the same environment in the same neighborhood, it's going to be the same thing. You need those opportunities. So, part of, and Linda's going to talk about this, I'm sure, but, Fund 2 Foundation, some of the work that we do in not only preservation of the environment and preservation of culture, but also creating experiences for people so that they see that and the importance of putting things in context. Okay. As bad as things are in some respects, we have fewer people in poverty than we've ever had in the history of this planet as a percentage basis. Why? Because people have been thoughtful about what do you do about it. Okay, and I think about that in the context of, for you all, you should want this environment, this planet, to be better than the way it was, 50 years ago. And so you all need to take direct action on making sure that happens. It's clear that some folks don't care about that because they're only going to be here another 20 years. Okay, y'all going to be here for a while, so I would be very focused on what state the planet's going to be in, for you and your kids. Okay. So,
thank you.
Toss the cube.
It could have been an interference call on that.
Yeah.
Got to go with the replay.
Oh, awesome.
Joe, you have that on video? We got to play? No? Okay.
Hi, hello. I'm
Hi.
Pageant Atterbury. I have a question. So for 2017 and 18, the income for the business was the same. And so I don't know if I'm doing something wrong because I don't want to get that, though I was happy with the number, I don't want that number to be the same for 2019. So have you ever been stagnant in your annual income? And if so, what did you do to get out of it?
And I'll say yes, the first, call it 6-7 years of Vista, because we had an agreement with one investor, it wasn't a growth business. So what did I do? I invested in my people and their development, teaching them these best practices, okay, in a way that it was then going to be scalable in the future, knowing that one day, when I could actually, call it free myself from that particular construct, that I could then have people who knew what to do so that I could then scale the business with capital so that we could actually scale the activities. And now we have the virtuous cycle. We can raise capital, deploy it effectively. I have the exact same team for the most part, with the exception of a couple of folks that I started off with 18 years ago in terms of my senior team.
Right.
With the exception of some of the one or two reasons, every principal I have at my firm started as an associate, trained in that way. So in some cases, I'm taking the same lesson and investing in my craft. Okay, my craft is creating value in enterprise software companies. That dynamic has changed. In the past, it was all about how you managed go to market and cost cutting and all that sort of thing, and actually creating efficient delivery mechanisms on what we call on-premise solutions. Today, we work in a world of cloud, artificial intelligence, blockchain, machine learning. I have to have a whole new different set of skill sets to grow my business, so I have to invest in that, cybersecurity. So I had to constantly invest. Like right now, I'm over-indexing on blockchain, okay? And there's probably a private equity firm in the world who's doing that, but us. But I know what it's gonna look like 5 years from now, because blockchain fabrics are going to dominate certain ecosystems in certain industries. I want to make sure my team is the best in the world at that.
Let me ask you a question before. What business are you in right now?
A family, we own schools.
I'm sorry, it's family.
We own schools.
Schools. So what elementary schools or?
So we have so we have five, we have 5 daycare, but they're set up like mini charter, and then 2 after-school facilities.
So I'm going to say something I say very, very often to folks in my organization. Some are here and some other young entrepreneurs. This is, I think, a key learning for entrepreneurs. The stuff that got you from here to here, right? You grew from 0 to 30 is very, very different than the stuff that will get you to grow from 30 to 60. So what happens is the entrepreneur, this worked for them, right? This worked, and then you hit where you're hitting right now, and you go, I don't understand. It's not what's going on. You're still working as hard, doing the same things, but it's a little bit deeper than we have time for here. But feel free to call me, by the way, or email, whatever you want. But I will tell you that the entrepreneur family or the entrepreneurs who take a step back and say, okay, what worked from 0 to 30, what do I have to do differently? It's not that you have to work harder or more hours necessarily. You're probably working a lot already. It's what you have to do differently to go 30 to 60. Just like a car's operation will be very, very different between 30 and 60. Then the stuff you have to start the engine, warm it up, and do all these things, gradually get. But between 30 and 60 is a different thing, right? And I can't tell you the technical side of it.
I can, but anyway.
Yeah, you probably could. But it's not about, it really truly is about saying what stage am I at as a business, and and then maybe it'll be different 60 to 90. So that's in my view the key, and I'd feel free to call Robert or me. I'm gonna give you both their numbers. Okay.
Yeah, and part of it in your business, you need to, let me not say you need to, technology is the way to grow in I own a company called Power School that 50+% of the K through 12 kids in North America are on that platform. And if you're kind of on the front edge of K, okay, you can start thinking about what modules, not that I'm selling software to you, but it should be. Anyway, but you have to think about, what are the modules, the reason people use that software, it creates a very productive school administration process,
right,
and very productive engagement with the parents. Like, while I've been sitting here, I got 3 emails from my son's teachers about something that I haven't read yet, but I'll figure that out.
Can't be good.
No, it's good. They do a good job of posting.
When I get emails that seem didn't show in the 4th hour.
Yeah.
So Robert, let me summarize what he just said. He said, buy Power School, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
No, he didn't say it. Okay.
Invest in your people
Mr.
and your
Smith,
staff.
I did want to add one of my favorite books by Matthew Gladwell is David and Goliath.
I didn't hear you, sorry.
David and Goliath.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's a great book, right?
See if you can throw that as far as you can.
As far as you can, back that way.
Okay. Oh, gosh.
That's what I'm talking
about. There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Let me go first. You go.
We have time for, I think, you may unfortunately be the last.
Yeah, one more.
Yeah, and
all right,
go ahead, I'll say it after you're done. Go ahead.
First, my name is Michael Howard. First off, I want to thank you guys for coming out here. My question is, the youth and younger individuals faces a lot of problems, whether if you black, white, green, purple, or the color of my shirt. I just want to know, what kept y'all going and motivated to achieve and strive and further better yourselves besides another pair of Chuck Taylors?
Yeah.
Wait, I didn't hear the last sentence.
Another pair of Chuck Taylors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You go.
No, you go first.
Yes, sir.
I'll go last.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the question is what
what kept you going? How did you persevere?
So if there's anything that I'd like to maybe leave people with on a talk like this, or it could happen in my office with interns or here, it's just whatever you do in life, man, you better love what you do and be passionate about it. It doesn't mean every single day is going to be great and you're going to go home and say, wow, this is a great, but there's something fundamental about finding, I guess for lack of better words, your calling or whatever it might be. And I think a life working in a job or a position that you just aren't fired up about, it's almost like it's a sad situation, like a wasted life. I mean, you spend more time, most people, unfortunately maybe, but at work during the day then maybe you even see your own family, you know, at night, weekends. I mean, you would hope over time that reverses, but I'm saying that, you know, love what you do. If you love what you do and you're willing to work hard and be aware, you know, and take feedback, man, it's hard to fail, right?
Yeah,
it's hard to fail.
I agree with that.
So,
you know, and it evolves in terms of what motivates you. I tell my kids I'm leaving them 3 things. They're not too happy in some cases when I go through the 3 things. But the first one I tell them, you know, the lesson of you are enough, okay? You are enough to become the person who you want, doing the thing that motivates you and keeps you passionate about life. The second is the one I told you, you know, discover the joy of figuring things out, okay? For me, that drives me. I love coming up with these elegant solutions to complex problems. My complex problem is how do I implement blockchain across 60 portfolio companies now? Okay, how do I think about artificial intelligence across 60 portfolio companies and deliver it in a way where there's only 10,000 experts in that in the world, right? How do I use, you know, what I have in terms of a system to do that? And the third thing, which is most important, is love is all that matters, okay? What is it that you love? What is you passionate about? I love my community, and I love being able to help and serve my community. That's what keeps me motivated, because I see that there are problems in our youth, in our communities, that I know how to solve. So I might as well get to it, right?
Right.
And then we're going to bring up Linda to talk about how we're doing it. So since we're out of time.
Let me just end with a couple of things. First of all, you can send my email address is dangilbert@quickenloans.com. If anybody here has questions on anything, it may not get to you right away, but we will get back to you. I don't know if you want to leave it.
Sandy Weil at. You all can read rsmith@vistaequitypartners.com.
Did you hear that? He's only saying it once.
Keith will get it. Where's Keith? Anyway, Keith will handle those wherever he is. Yeah.
I do want to say that I have done a lot of one-on-one interviews with you know, famous people and successful people. I got to tell you, you know, to me, yeah, you're an incredible role model.
Oh, thanks, Dan.
An incredible inspiration for African American kids. And like, you know, I've heard this. Is Dhani Jones here? Is he here?
He's over there.
He's here. So Dhani, who played football for Michigan and an NFL, but that's not. The best part about him is his incredible intellect and brain and entrepreneurial spirit, who moved to Detroit and is working with us and doing all kinds of business.
You can come out and so they can see you.
Say hello.
Say hi.
But hey, say hello. So Dhani, he educated me on something. We're working together on African American entrepreneurship in the city of Detroit. And one of the things he told me, what you said the same thing. It was, I didn't have a lot of people that looked like me, or there aren't a lot of people that look, you know, who are entrepreneurial businessmen of size. And so you are just a huge inspiration, but not just for black people, but for everybody. I mean,
thank you,
and keep up doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So, and thank you for welcoming us to the city of Detroit.
Great.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Executive Director of Fund to Foundation, Linda Wilson.
Is this working? Yay! Hello, everyone. I don't know about you, but after listening to comments and discussions like that, I get a little out of body. Do you know what I mean? It's, I have so much going on in my mind, and I want to comment on this, and I want to comment on that, and it's just exquisite to witness that kind of conversation, isn't it? Yeah, and they're supposed to be sitting here listening to me, but I'll get them later. All right. Good evening. As the voice of God told you, you know what the voice of God is, right? Can we hear a voice of God?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Executive Director.
I love it. That meant we didn't have to pay for an MC. I'm Linda Wilson, Executive Director of Fund to Foundation. Thank you to all who made this day possible, from Quicken Loans, the Skillman Foundation, and the Vista Consulting Group. This is an incredible venue, isn't it? Oh my gosh, just beautiful. And we are grateful for the opportunity to be here in Detroit. On behalf of our entire team and board of directors, we appreciate all of you for coming out today to celebrate the power and potential of internships. We have had Detroit on our hearts and minds since the beginning of Fund 2. Personally, I worked here decades ago, I hate to say how many decades, but it was quite a few, with the Ford Foundation on prevention of drug abuse in the auto industry. Did you know there was ever a problem there? I am pondering whether to lose some more money at the casino tonight or lose some fillings when I bite into a Greektown candy apple. Do you all still have them? I'll be there. All right. So today my task is twofold. First of all, I want to grow up and be like Tanya. She just speaks off the cuff, and I have to write my stuff down or else I forget. But I want to give you some insight on the Fund2 Foundation's mission and to drum up your support for the internX portal. You all know about Robert Smith pretty well by now. He founded Fund2 Foundation in late 2014 with these 5 pillars. And I heard the young lady talk about preservation. Very, very important to us. And I'll just mention what they are. Preserving the African American experience, safeguarding human rights, promoting music education, providing the healing experience of the outdoors, and sustaining American values. Good gracious, right? You know, some foundations have one thing to do. We have 5, and then we throw some other things in too. For example, parental engagement and veterans affairs. It's like, hey, slow down a bit. So how many of you all feel like you know Robert Smith pretty well by now? Feel like you know him? Come on, look, I'm from DC. I gotta have a little bit of nodding when you're talking, just a little bit. Rock and roll. He founded Fund2 Foundation. Some people call it Fun to Fun. Some people say fun, F-U-N. And we do hope to have a lot of fun, but it's Fund2 Foundation. In late 2014, he'd been a philanthropist for a while by then, and he learned that great intentions do not guarantee great outcomes. True? Our schools and teachers are still woefully underfunded. Witness the Los Angeles teacher strike. That's getting hot and heavy. And then I just saw on the way here about the furloughs and the people striking at the airports. Oh, this is 2019. I don't know if you all know, but some of us first landed, in quotes here, 400 years ago. Well, guess what? Time is up. Look, I am an ordained minister, but I'm not going to go there right now. So community leaders struggle mightily to provide essential social services. Our young people are rarely connected to the outdoors, to music, to art, and activities that foster imagination and curiosity, which Robert and Dan were just talking about. We intended to work with amazing organizations in our nation to change that as quickly as we could. We wanted our programs and activities to fuel the engine of prosperity for people often left out. Since beginning the work 4 years ago, the board's grant making has been able to touch millions of lives for the better. You will see that we have touched over 1 million people in just 4 years. And that's not bad, really. So we've been intent on addressing social justice issues such as hate groups, human trafficking, and mass incarceration. We've helped school children to experience the joy of parental and community support. Can I get some water? We've helped them hear and play music that stirs the soul and to dig in the dirt and witness our planet improving thanks to their efforts. We've ensured young people, especially black and brown young men and women, thank you, to help them go to school, to college with confidence, along with access to tools, training, and support that they need to attain jobs, and also become business owners, right? Isn't that what the cradle to greatness really means? While we want people to have good jobs, we want them to hire people. Well, you have to hire people through owning the places. And we've helped military veterans and their families navigate the often confusing maze of services so they're healed once they return from service. Our capital and creativity feed this engine of progress. Our focus on inclusion at every step of the journey boldly cultivates our true promise as a unified nation. And in that spirit, we have begun supporting collaboration amongst our investment portfolio with the goal of deepening the bonds and what we are calling the Cradle to Greatness pipeline. I'm so glad Robert mentioned it. I mean, look, we have a song. Look up Derek Minor. He's a rap artist. Anybody know him? Hey. He's got, of course, when I was like, look, we need some fun in this joint. So we went and got, I went looking online for a song. So I looked up greatness, found Drake and a whole lot of other people, and I'm like, that words won't fit with what we're trying to do. So I found Derek Minor, and he has 2 songs, Greatness and Greatness 2.0. Our UNCF youth came together and designed, go look it up, it's on YouTube, designed a line dance to You Were Made for Greatness. Uh-oh. Do I have to hurry up? Yep. Okay. So check that out. Look, I'm so tired, I can't even tell you. All right, so here's a little bit of the Cradle to Greatness. Please contact us so we can talk about it. This is my heart. Tanya knows. I cannot bear what we have gone through, having our kids sort of move through life and then hit certain spots and just stop. It's back to what you were talking about, that stagnation. And I do think that what they were telling you earlier is that take that time, like Eastern philosophy, that there's ebbs and flows in life. Things are not always straight ahead, but there's time for rest, right? And resuming family. That's why we have seasons. You know, there's a way to do it, but we really do need to work on that, being very intentional about that cradle to greatness. So, just so you know, we ask for metrics and data to ensure our investments provide good outcomes for the population served. We assess how organizations are talking to others in their space, not just other nonprofits doing similar work, but also multi-sector alliances that are addressing the systemic nature of so many of our pressing problems. In other words, what we plan to do is when we invest, we don't want to hear that you're taking the funds and just using it for your staff and the programs. We want to make sure, because everybody has to have vendors, right? Who do you hire? Do you make sure that you have a multicultural vendor? Do you also think about your staff? Are you conscious about it? Everybody says, oh, well, we can't have too many board members of color because, you know, you have to pay to play. You have to give or get, right? Well, guess what? You just saw some give or get over there. There are plenty of people. They're hidden. And there's a great group that talks about high net worth donors of color. They are there. We are asking that our grantees start seeking ways to proliferate. They talk about diversity of ideas. Well, you're not going to get them if you don't have the people in the room, correct? All right, so as we transition into the next stage of our development, the Fund 2 Foundation will deepen our ongoing relationship with key partners, and we hope many of you all in here, and we will continue to be both savvy investors and joyful supporters. We'll keep rolling up our sleeves alongside other like-hearted folks like you in here to speak for those who have no voice, provide comfort to those who are in need, and extend a hand when we can. Now, pure and simple, internX. This is our latest endeavor. Robert got this idea in the middle of the night, and I got an email. And I have not had sleep since. Try to start a platform. At our first annual Cradle to Greatness gathering, we heard how important internships are to advancing on the path. If you think about it, there are 3 ships in that Cradle to Greatness: mentorship, scholarship, and internship, right? And if you think about it, those are 3 ships. And the lead ship is internship. Well, the only way you're going to have anybody get to that greatness part is if that ship, that internship, actually happens. And we have some, but we really need to dig deeper and make sure that all of our folks have that experience. And I don't want to hear companies telling me, oh, we don't, you know, we can't find anybody. Come on. You found your nephew. You found your friend's cousin who's a little kind of crazy that you let them stay there anyway, and you train them, and now they run in the meal room. At least they're doing something. Come on, I don't even want to hear it. Well, meet our friends and family. And that's what we're trying to do. So, I'm serious. It is ridiculous. I wish somebody would say that to me today. So, last summer, we piloted an intern matching clearinghouse, now known as internX. And we had, just so you see, and I'll close up really quickly, Notice that last summer, Robert and he mentioned AT&T, they sat down and talked, and in a month and a half, we put together 70 internships. We decided to launch it. We have built, where's Jeff Nelson and Ivana? Where are they in there? Please raise your hand. Please give these folks a hug. I had to send Jeff's mother-in-law a Christmas wreath so that she would let him do our work at Christmas dinner. That's how crazy this has been. But guess what? We launched yesterday. Since yesterday, we have 4,160 candidates. One day, not even, well, 28 hours. 23 collaborators. Please raise your hand if you're a collaborator in the room. I know you're here because I've seen you running around. Okay. No, not 14 jobs. 73 companies in a day. Our goal is to have 10,000 by 2020. Guess what? We got a call from somebody that said that they have 10,000 on their own. Get it? Are we disrupting? Yeah, it's time. You all, I mean, it's the fruit. It's low hanging and we need to get it. So, as I mentioned, my team needs a hug. Robert sent me emails that changed the course of this day at 5:30. And so then I worried them to death. So could my team please stand up? They deserve 3 hugs before they come home and get drunk tonight, okay? I'm not going to belabor the issue since I'm already over, obviously, but we started late. I'm sorry. Please check out internX.org. And networking, please come and see us so we can tell you a little bit more about it. And we love you, young people. We are here for you. We will hurt somebody for you. Deal? All right. Thank you. Tanya?
So did I did promise you that she is brilliant and funny. So thank you so much. Before we end, if we could just do a couple things. And that is, one, I just as Linda indicated, we just want to thank all of the team members who worked on this initiative, from the Fund2 Foundation, from Quicken Loans team, from the Skillman Foundation, everybody who worked on internX, and I'm sure there are lots of others who have participated. So I just want to say thank you to all of those participants. Second thing I wanted to just share with you, immediately afterwards, we're going to have a small reception. We'd love for you to stay. We'd love for you to socialize, to talk with each other, to network, and particularly for adults, to make sure you're reaching out to young people and helping them and help answer the questions. It's nice for them to have an experience of a Robert Smith and a Dan Gilbert, but they don't need that to be successful, right? And then the last thing is, just as Linda talked about internX and many of the other efforts that they're doing, many of the efforts that the Skillman Foundation is doing, many of the efforts that you're doing, we need to do that and amplify and maximize them so that this city is opportunity lit for our kids. So thank you so much. Appreciate you all. All right, have a good evening.